Valley community on this beautiful fall morning, including those on the internet. Is there anyone celebrating with us for the first time?
Yes, we have one.
One, we have a visitor's packet for you. We're not going to come knocking on your door. If you raise your hand, we'll get one to you. I'd like to remind everyone to turn off their cell phones. And our at-one-minute reader this morning is Melanie Hollis. And our guest musician, welcome, is Aubrey. Thank you.
I love that. I love that. Here we go.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Melanie.
It always brings me great joy to be here with family, church family. I love you and appreciate you. You may have heard this reading before, but it's kept speaking to me, so I just had to do it again. Do not feel abandoned. I am always with you. If you have questions, day-to-day questions, as I know you do even right now, and will continue to, know that you can call on me to answer them. You do not need the form of a book. This is not the only way I speak to you. Listen to me in the truth of your soul. Listen to me in the feelings of your heart. Listen to me in the quiet of your mind. Hear me everywhere. Whenever you have a question, simply know that I have answered it already. Then open your eyes to your world. My response could be an article already published, in the sermon already written, or about to be delivered, in the movie now being made, in the song just yesterday composed, in the words about to be said by a loved one, in the heart of a new friend about to be made. My truth is in the whisper of the wind, the babble of the brook, the crack of the thunder, the tapping of the rain. It is the feel of the earth, the fragrance of the lily, the warmth of the sun, even the pull of the moon. My truth and your surest help in time of need is as awesome as the night sky and as simply, incontrovertibly trustful as a baby's gurgle. It is as loud as a pounding heartbeat and as quiet as a breath taken in unity with me. I will not leave you. I cannot leave you, for you are my creation and my product, my daughter, my son, my purpose. You are myself. Call on me, therefore, whenever and whenever you are separate from the peace that I am. I will be there with truth and light and deepest love. I thought that was very beautiful, and I hope that it spoke to you today. Peace be with you all.
Let's sing our opening hymn together. It's number 69, Awake My Soul. We'll sing all three verses. Number 69, Awake My Soul. We'll sing all three verses.
away from the normal routine of things this Sunday. So we do not have a Bible verse today, but we are going to do the statement of needs, so let's read that. If you don't know it, it's in your orders of service. God is all.
God is all.
Both indivisible and visible, one presence, one mind, one power is all.
This
This
one
one that is all is perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. I am the individualized expression of God, and I am one with this perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance.
Okay, Bob.
Don't make my hair go for them.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
It's really good to be here again. Thank you. You have such a warm constitution, shall I say. First thing I'm going to share is one I wrote some years ago after the Virginia Tech tragedy, and it was also meant for Katrina. And we've had some of that going down in Italy, happened last night, as you know. It's called Turnaround, and I hope you can get some inspiration out of this. When the fury of a storm picks up the waves, or the darkness closes in upon the day, light another candle, sit close to the fire and pray. We can turn around the damage, turn it into love, take a chance to see another way. Take a chance to see beyond the tears and the pain. Let love begin again. In the beauty of the rose we compensate. We hold on to each other through our faith. Light another candle, sit close to the fire and pray. We can turn around the damage, turn it into love, take a chance to find another way, take a chance to see beyond the tears and the pain. Let love begin again. In the sky it is written, the sun returns each day. No matter what we do or say. We can turn around the damage, turn it into love, take a chance to find another way, take a chance to see beyond tears and the pain. Let love begin again.
you so much. Good morning.
Good morning.
We have a very special event this day in that we are going to have 4 of our members, our friends, speak and talk about how divine science has helped them. And there's nothing more interesting than hearing somebody's first-hand experience. So we were going to have that in just a minute. We'll share ideas and share inspiration. You know, when you hear somebody else talk about how this works for them, it encourages you to try it yourself. Try to give a little more emphasis or importance in your own life to it. So, what fun and what inspiration. We thank them all. And let me introduce them because they will be coming to the microphone in order. And one of them is Gil Barba. Thank you, Gil. Another is Tammy Mulkey. And another is, where are you? Oh, excuse me, Ann Dieter, and Jenny Wise. Yes, thank you. We thank them for being here with us. And now, before they start, I'm going to have a short meditation to get us all into the mood. So let us be for just a few moments. And being means simply closing our eyes and going within. Relaxing our faces and our shoulders and backs, arms and hands, stomach, legs, and feet. In this quietude, we can retreat more completely into that inner sanctum, that place of quietude, of peace, of comfort. For there is such great comfort in knowing the omnipresence of God right here within me, within each. We look at life and we think to ourselves, oh, how can that happen? How can God permit that? And yet, could we but see the full picture, not just the physical evidence, but if we could see the mental patterns and the interaction of soul growth, greater understanding and peace in each and every life, the strengthening of the individual, we would see the reasons why, and we would see the good that was coming forth from that experience. We can't, for the most part. But what we do know is that God reigns, and that God and all that He is, God's good, is present everywhere, in every challenge, in every misstep of ours, in every fear, for behind the fear there is hope. Behind the doubt there is faith. Right now we give thanks in the deepest part of ourselves for omnipresence. Omnipresent. God present in me and in everything that concerns me. And just as God is present, good is present as well. For the next 90 seconds, let us briefly touch those issues, concerns, fears, or doubts we might have, and know right now that God is in the midst of them, bringing forth that hithertofore unseen good. Right here, right now. Come unto me, all ye who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. We go to Him knowing what God is in the midst of ourselves, in the midst of a physical condition, or a mental challenge, or a financial difficulty, or an interpersonal difficulty. It matters not. For God good is right there. And we assure ourselves of it. We no longer are heavy laden. We rest in what we know that God is and God is doing right now. And for this we say, in the deepest heart of our hearts, thank you. Thank you, dear God. Amen. Shall we say the Lord's Prayer? The positive version of it. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed is thy name. Thy kingdom is come. Thy will is done on earth as it is in heaven. Thou givest us this day our daily bread. Thou forgivest us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Thou leadest us not into temptation, but dost deliver us from all evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen. And now I'm going to invite our speakers forward one at a time. You want to start, Gil? And I wanted to remind all the speakers, everybody's seen these big productions with lots and lots of stars and voices, and they have the microphone, it looks like halfway up their nostril. They get it real close because they want everyone to hear. And so I invite everybody to get real close to the microphone.
Thanks a lot. When Marita called me and asked me if I would do this, I hesitated at first, but then I decided that I should do it. And then I gave it a lot of thought. And there's many things this church has done for me. One important thing is it's taught me to pray. It's taught me that God is within me. I grew up a Catholic, and for the longest time, all we concentrated on was we were sinners, and we had to ask God for forgiveness. And God, did I have to ask God for forgiveness? And it really worked on you, because you never thought you were good enough. But we are good enough. Each and every one of us. I've learned that if God is within you, which I believe, then He forgives you constantly, because we fail constantly. None of us are perfect. A lot of us think that we're pretty close to perfect, but we're not. We're human beings that He created, and He gave us free will. And that's why He gave it to us. Because if He made us perfect, there would be like no meaning to life. You have to fall down to get up. You have to learn to forgive other people so that you can forgive yourself. I tell people I'm a very rich person. I have 5 children, 9 grandchildren, 6 great babies. So I am rich. And my family has grown. When we get to DJ and I have them for Christmas, we're up to 32 now. And I try to instill in them to be givers. And it's not easy to be a giver, because most of us think that we're not good enough. Most of us don't have special talents, like being able to play the piano and sing, or give a message like Marita does. But we all have something. I think my gift is that I try to help others in little ways. Go visit them at the hospital. You wouldn't believe what that does to the person in the bed. I have 2 friends that one doesn't have both legs. One's got a bad knee. And a 10-minute visit with them is amazing. It's amazing what it can do. I also find that you can find God anywhere. What I do many afternoons, and I'm being honest, I will get me a little glass of tequila, get me a cigar, and I go out in my backyard. I have some bird feeders, and I listen to the birds. And the messages I get from God are incredible. I also listen to music. And I wrote this down from this song that I think is beautiful, but the words, it kind of says it all. But before I read that, I want to mention these little prayers. Because when you pray for others, you really pray for yourself. And come on, everybody has a little gift. That could be one. Just pull one out on Sundays and pray for them all week. And by the end of the week, you will feel personally so much better. And it also reminds you of who else you got to pray for. I got a list, yay long. I got my California list. I got my Salem list. I got my Roanoke list. So it does remind me to pray for these people. I hope I can get through this, God. Once in every life, there comes a time we walk all alone and into the light. This moment won't last, but then we'll remember it again. When you close your eyes like stars crossing the sky, we were born to shine. And all of us here, because we believe, can shine.
Okay, this is too close. I'm going to move it a little bit. Nerves? No. About 18 years ago, I started coming to this church at the request of a counselor that I was seeing, because at the time I was going through a lot of emotional, very depressive state of being, and my counselor suggested this church and Marita, as she would change the course of everything for me, and indeed she has. Quite different than my Methodist upbringing, thank goodness, but anyway, I'm not one of these people that is relaxed getting up here like Gil did and talking. So I wrote something. I hope you guys will bear with me as I read, because that's just the way I roll. But anyway. Journey. We all have one, a life's path. That's what I would describe my time here on earth. Just like you, I've been on this wonderful journey with a series of life lessons that has gotten me to this point in life. I guess you might call my journey trials leading towards self-acceptance and gratitude for these lessons along the way. My early life was primarily one of extreme low self-acceptance, lack of confidence, and oversensitivity of what others thought of me. I basically allowed what I thought others thought of me to define me, leaving me with a very low self-esteem image of myself, causing me to not really like myself. I was never pretty enough or smart enough or just plain enough for anyone to like. This, of course, caused me to be extremely antisocial. I guess it all started with my parents divorcing when I was 5. Both parents argued constantly, which was really unsettling to say the least. My mother moved to Georgia with her soon-to-be new husband, and my dad and I were left alone to carry on. My dad was a great father and treated me well, emphasizing the importance of education, believing in myself, and following my dreams. I loved my father greatly. He was truly a good man who did the best he could under his circumstances. Sadly, my father died of cancer when I was 16, so my grandmother, my dad's mother, picked up where he left off, raising me the best she could. She too was a wonderful role model who provided support and motivation and helped me identify with being a worthy person. But I was my own worst enemy. Okay, I'm going to move forward with my journey a bit and talk about my recent high school reunion a few weeks back, which was the first one I had ever attended. I never wanted to attend these others because I was still very uncomfortable with myself, still had that low self-esteem, never wanting to attend these events, because in high school I was just a wallflower, not popular, not extremely smart, not very pretty, just average. In fact, if I were to describe my life thus far, I would call it average, never excelling in anything really, just kind of flatlining through life. I do remember in elementary school that one thing I could do well was to make people laugh. I had a special friend in elementary school. In fact, we went through elementary, high school together. We just seemed to click from day one. I found it easy to relate and converse with her, and when I found out how to make her laugh by telling her a joke or a silly comment, making her laugh until tears would stream down her cheeks, I felt like I had made a really lifelong friend. Even in the summer, when school was on break, we would call each other just to chat and laugh. I had truly found a sisterhood friend with Melissa. Once we moved into junior high and high school, we didn't have classes together, but we would still manage to speak to one another in the halls and recollect on times gone by. Melissa was very pretty and became a cheerleader and even was on the homecoming court. But she never presented as someone who was better than others, always treating me, Miss Wallflower Jane Doe, the same as when we were kids. Another character in my high school development journey years was Pete. Pete, like myself, was an only child who was not really in the popular crowd, just average like me. Pete and I shared algebra, and he sat behind me, always making me laugh, so I connected with him instantly. After high school, we dated, or as I call it, hung out, constantly. In fact, it was Pete who motivated me to play guitar. He had learned how to play when he was like 9 or 10, and he kept this skill up. He absolutely loved music and probably had collected over 1,000 record albums. This is when record albums were hot back in the day. Pete read every music trivia book that came out about various musicians, and he could answer any trivia question you posed to him. He was a musical genius. His parents were somewhat well-to-do, as his father was a business executive and had to relocate sometimes. In fact, Pete was born in Maryland, but relocated to Franklin County years earlier due to his father's job. Pete had a nice house that bordered Blackwater River in Franklin County, and we would sit for hours on the banks of the river with him teaching me guitar chords and riffs. And then we would go inside to this huge stereo and listen for hours to Led Zeppelin, Kiss, Aerosmith, Bad Company, Beatles, countless others. Pete and I decided we wanted to move from this one-horse town of Rocky Mount and go west. So one summer, shortly after high school, we set out in my 74 Volkswagen Beetle with $300 to see if there was life after this small town, or would we just drop off at the edge. We got as far as Dallas, Texas, and I started having doubts as we couldn't secure employment, our money was running out, and I missed my grandmother and my dog. Humbly, we came back, and I enrolled at Virginia Western Community College. Well, several months go by, and Pete informed me his parents had to relocate due to his father's work. And seeing as how he hadn't found employment here, he was going to move also. He asked me to go, but I was settled with my college pursuits, and I didn't want to leave my grandmother or my dog. I loved Pete. It was one of the hardest things I had to do. But seeing it as a wise decision, I elected to stay in this one-horse town. Pete and I still spoke by phone and wrote letters, but eventually this all kind of dissolved, as with time we distanced ourselves, unfortunately. Back to my journey. As I said, I recently attended my 40th high school reunion. Of course, I was only 2 when I graduated from high school.
Yes, of course.
Of course. And not knowing what to expect, but knowing that I was prepared this time, as I had obtained confidence in myself now, and I was able to disconnect with any kind of low self-esteem, because through the years, since high school, I had gravitated towards building my own self-confidence, and as I discovered, it was totally upon me to create what my life journey would be about. No one was responsible for my happiness, self-acceptance, and peace of mind but me. So I made it my goal to work towards this effort. Of course, it took years, trial and error, but I discovered my trials were for a reason, which brought me to a better understanding of what my life was to be. I didn't want the life of the past with unhappiness, lack of acceptance of myself. Of course, I still have to work on this mission occasionally, but deep down, I know that God has helped me reach that peaceful state of mind that I had hoped for so long ago. And when I forget this, I go for a long walk, a bike ride, or read an inspirational book to get my head straight with the truth. Okay, back to my high school reunion. When I was at the reunion, I happened upon a large cutout silhouette of an eagle. After all, we were the Franklin County Eagles. And this was our mascot emblem. Upon viewing this eagle, I saw 25 or so pictures of young faces. Memories of my past transporting me back to 17 again. Oh, if I was 17 again. There were pictures of popular kids, not so popular kids, cheerleaders, football heroes, extremely smart, very athletic, average Joes, black, white, male, female, basically the faces of young people that I used to roam the halls and classrooms and share a laugh or two with. I looked to the corner, and who did I spot? My elementary school friend, Melissa. And on the other corner, I saw Pete, my musical sweetheart, that I shared so many interests that I had with. The unfortunate fact about seeing these two pictures were that these were the faces of those of our classmates that had passed away. In fact, Melissa was only 34 when she died of cervical cancer. She had moved to Georgia and was a model, as well as a 9-to-5 type job too. Pete had passed away in 2014. No one seemed to know what happened to him because he was out of state. Although it was liberating to go to this high school reunion to see how the good-looking cheerleaders were now very much aged and extremely out of shape, and the smart kids were now bald and living off their spouses, I thought to myself, you know, I didn't do so bad. If nothing else, I was happy and had peace of mind. And now at this moment in time, I didn't care if I was ever in a popular group or not. Because when it all comes down to it, we all will be a picture someday on some wall or obituary notice. I was truly saddened by the loss of my two friends who had a major impact on my life development. And I know if they could speak to me right now, they would tell me to seize the moment, live for today. Don't worry about tomorrow. You only have one go around on the planet, Tammy. It's your choice. Walk with peace and accept yourself, for you are worthy and entitled to the good that God has planned for you. Life is so very brief. Take it from us. Make the most of every moment, every breath, every person you meet. Tell them you love them because you get one spin. And if you waste it on anger, hate, resentment, bitterness, then you have taken away the gift that God wanted you to have and entitled you to. My journey, and it has been a great one, is finally self-acceptance, peace, gratitude for all the lessons that got me here to this point in time. Over the years, it took the realization that once we accept and love ourselves, then we can accept and love others, as we are all basically the same. Life has finally started to make sense, and I treasure each and every day as a gift from God. Thank you.
Thank you.
I too have to read mine. As an adult, looking back at my childhood years, my childhood was not ideal, but it was not that bad either. I carried the baggage of my childhood and only remembered the unhappy times. Not until my childhood friend, who many of you have met, did I realize that there were good times as well. I would rather not reflect on my childhood, but advance to my teen years. After my sister married, she moved to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. She and her family would allow me to come and visit with them and stay with them for the summer. I realized I was never meant to be a country girl. I was a city girl at heart. I was raised Catholic, but some of our priests were very old. One was so old that he fell asleep when my dad was giving his confession. To this day, I do not realize if the confession was so boring or if the priest had been in the wine and was inebriated. I did not feel I should have to confess my sins to a priest. God listened, and that was all I needed. Yet every significant holiday, I was in line with all my other classmates, asking to be forgiven because I had sinned. Not until I went away for the summer did I meet a priest I could really relate to. I found Father Tom would listen to me. I even attended morning masses during the week. This is where I met my other wonderful friend, Helen, who was about 60 years older than me. She taught me age was just a number. Helen did not believe in confession, and neither Tom nor her believed there was a hell. They believed in a loving, caring God. This was the God I could relate to. I wanted more of this and less of the strict priest I had when I was growing up. Things happened between Tom and I that made me distance myself from him. I saw him once in many years which passed between us. Not until 1993 did he contact me to tell me our very dear friend Helen had committed suicide. He assured me that when I was ready to talk, he would be there. In 1994, I began to enter into my own hell. I spent the next 10 years of my life not wanting to live. I carried the deep pain of depression. At the end of my first year, being treated for bipolar, a label that made me feel like that was who I was rather than an illness I had, I decided I was ready to talk to Tom, only to find out from Helen's daughter that in April of '94, he had done what her mother had done. He too had committed suicide. I had lost two very key players from my young adult years. They had made me realize what a good person I was. I may have been more sensitive than my siblings, but that was okay. Tom and Helen suffered from depression, which I knew nothing about until I had my own experience with it. For the longest period of time, I believed I was meant to be the third part of the triangle. I also was meant to die. Through much therapy, hard work, and medication, my depression is under control. I may still have occasional days where I am down, but I have learned through my divine science that I choose the thoughts I am having. If I want to feel differently, I must change my thinking. Like attracts like. I understand the meaning of this. Divine science has allowed me to know of my good because God is good. I know I am a compassionate, loving, and caring person. And the church has only made these attributes that much more. I have found a church family who believes as I do and knows that God is all. When I walked into this church for the first time, I was immediately accepted for me. It took a couple of years before I left my comfort zone of Laurel and Cynthia, but people began to notice a change in me. I was happier than I had ever been. Divine science transforms a person. You cannot help but become a better human being when you believe and practice what this church teaches us. One last story I wish to tell. Some of you have heard it, but I feel a need to tell it again. I feel this was my God moment. Most of you know I had to have emergency surgery on my neck back in July. My hands had been going numb, so I went to my family doctor. I spent a couple of weeks doing the worst thing possible, continually worrying. After an X-ray and MRI, my doctor referred me to a neurosurgeon. By the time I saw him, my hands were so numb that I was having difficulty with my gross motor skills. Buttoning a button was a real challenge for me. I saw him June 30th, and he scheduled my surgery for July 5th. It was at this time that I decided to turn what was going on with me over to God. This feeling of calm came over me, and I knew everything was going to work out as it was meant to be. I felt God's presence. and realized this was an experience others had felt before me, but it was a first for me. I love the people of this church. Every Sunday we are given an uplifting message. We all genuinely care about one another and would go to great lengths to help one another out. Never have I felt a church community as I have at Valley Community Church of Divine Science. We all have stories to tell, wounds that needed to be healed, and we are accepting of one another. Thank you for allowing me to share my story.
Good morning, Jeannie. When Marita first asked me to do this, I thought, what will I say? And I was very nervous about this. And then I thought, as I did it, and I reflected on maybe almost 20 years being here, what a wonderful thing that was. What a wonderful exercise to reflect on how I've changed and what this church has given me. So I have things to read too, or I'll never remember. So Valley Community Church has been so significant in my life, and especially powerful has been the teachings of Dr. Marita. I grew up Catholic, and unlike many in this church, I love the Catholic Church. I have gotten so much from it. I learned to pray deeply. I learned reverence for life. I still and probably will always be, and part of me and much of me, a Catholic. But many things were limiting about the Catholic Church for me, and I feel like this church did the finish work a little bit for me. So I grew up thinking that prayer was private. I was never able to pray with another person, and as somebody that's always been of service in my life, I'm a nurse and a nurse practitioner, and I love my work. I really wanted to learn to pray loud. I was jealous of those Baptists that were able to just pray with people aloud. So that was a personal goal of mine, to learn that, and I had the privilege of attending the chaplain training through this church. And that was a beautiful weekend experience, and then those of us that were chaplains were able to keep working with that, and I prayed with many of you after church, and that was just a huge blessing. But more significantly, I was able to pray. I did off and on about 15 years as a hospice nurse, and I was able to pray with my hospice patients, and that was just wonderful to be able to do that. And also in my office as a nurse practitioner and in the emergency department, I used to work at Franklin Memorial in the ED, I was able to offer prayer, and it was so neat and just so amazing to me how touched people are when you offer prayer in a medical setting. They love that. Some people would start to cry when I would offer prayer, and we would pray for their healing, and sometimes for simple things like quitting smoking, you know, but I believe it's so powerful. Let's see. So also, going back a little bit, living in a herd, I grew up in a herd, a huge herd. We had 8 in our home. We had my grandmother. I was the oldest of 5 children, and there were 4 of us in 5 years. So you can imagine, I just felt a bit lost in the shuffle, to be honest with you, growing up like a lot of Catholic families are, you know. And there's a lot of pressure on the oldest child in Catholic families, where the parents and my grandmother tended to be very hard on me, just as they had on the oldest in generations before that. And we were taught kind of a concept of lack. And Marita and I have talked about this many times. I was taught, you know, never go first, don't take too much, there's not enough for the rest, especially as the oldest. So that was deeply, deeply ingrained in me. When I came here and I heard there's enough for all and there's abundance for all, that was a concept that I really could not grasp, to be honest with you. So I took the class on abundance, and it took a long time for that to filter through my thick brain and my training. But after a while, it turned my thinking around, and I probably always have had much abundance, and now I see it. And now I don't see through eyes of lack. So thank you, Marita, for that huge turnaround, big turnaround in my thinking. I went through a divorce while I was here when I first came, and my family is far away, but many members of this church took me in and really had provided a loving community, even though my family isn't here. And also the members of the church board have been kind enough to let me teach Reiki classes here, and that's been wonderful. I used to teach them downstairs in the coffee room, and now we have this beautiful fellowship hall and gorgeous garden, and what a place to work on healing. Sometimes when I've taught classes here, people just wander in off the street. It's really kind of amazing. So anyway, to close, although we all miss the mark sometimes, I feel like the members of this church really strive to emulate Christ, and because of that, I just feel like you all are kindred spirits to me, and thank you, Marita.
Wonderful.
Well, I asked if I could address you also. And I would like to do this. While I was sitting there, Spirit told me to do this little chant with you to help lock in what we've just heard. So if you sing with me, the words are, welcome the way we grow, welcome the way we grow, open and we will know, open and it is so. So it goes, welcome the way we grow, welcome the way we grow, open and we will know, open and it is so. Again, welcome the way we grow, welcome the way we grow, open and we will know, open and it is so. Welcome the way we grow, welcome the way we grow, open and we will know, open and it is so. Welcome the way we grow, welcome the way we grow, open and we will know, open and it is so. The stories are beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I'm going to share a little of my story. I've been coming here for 20 years too. I guess I'm an honorary sidekick. And I always feel welcome, and that is just wonderful. The acceptance and the joy that comes out of you permeates this space and your hearts is a joy that I feel. That's just wonderful. I'm going to share a couple things about my music. I recently finished a CD, which I started in 1987. It's my first 3 cassette releases, which never got on CD. And I had kind of had this idea 5 years ago that I wanted to do this, and I contacted Skip Brown, who was over at Unity, if he would digitize my remaining cassettes. I had 4 copies of each left, that was it. And 2 of each actually worked so that he could actually move the material over and digitize it. And then I let it go until this spring, when I actually thought, I'm ready to do this. I picked out 16 of the songs, and I worked with Dave Faison, who's a local musician who lives near me, and we remastered it and got the levels all the same. And it actually turned out really good. I added a few tracks, drums got added to one song. We didn't have enough, back then there wasn't enough tracks in the studio. I'd run out before I got even near what I wanted to do. I didn't have any more room, And one of these actually was an a cappella thing I did. I used to bring a lot of chants through, and I did this, one of the three was called Light and Wind, and that song actually was off of it. Anyway, so this I have now, and the next song I'm going to do is off of this too. It's called Rewind to Early Years. The other thing is, this is good, this is a win-win for us and for me and for you. I was crawling around my attic about four months ago, and I stumbled on these, well, I didn't stumble on them, but I crawled into these boxes of CDs that I have from my first 3 or 4 recordings that I did in the 90s, which I don't generally try to sell anymore. I just, I sold enough to do the next recording and, move on, and you're not singing the material anymore. And I realized I got 400 of this, 350 of this, 400 of that, and I don't want to leave them to my kids to have to deal with throwing in a dumpster or giving away 100 of them at a memorial service. So I started giving away at my performances, and I've been doing that since, and I've gotten rid of a couple hundred, at least, maybe more. Gotten rid of, whatever. Hopefully they've gone to homes where people will be blessed by the music. One of them has Pray for Each Other, Keep the Light Burning, and Heaven, Stepping into Heaven, which I know I've sung here a number of times. And another one, Lifetimes and Ages, which is the first one, has a couple songs on it that I've done. And the other one is a Grace Note CD. I Always Dreamed of Flying. I played that here a little while ago. So you can get some material you've actually heard. And please, there's a box up there. Take, with you when you go. Okay? They're free. And then I've got some for sale too. That's up to you. So the song I'm going to do is called Release Me. And I wrote it during the Harmonic Convergence, 1987. For those of you who might have had that thing going for you in your life. And the many things, I don't know, again, another thing that happens for me when I'm sitting in a circle and people are sharing, which is sort of what this was this morning. By the time you get to, if you're towards the end of the circle, by the time it comes your turn, you pretty much heard everything you're going to say, right? I mean, that's what, and I heard that this morning there. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Whoops, I probably need the lyrics. Most of the time, you watch me, I play with my eyes closed half the time, but then I struggle with, the workings of our brains, my brain.
Release me. Oh, release
the sun. If the children we are one. If the lessons are not learned, empty, open, we return. No right or wrong, where love belongs, or we leave.